Hello community. Okay, so what this is basically a video for I can think of 3 types of people. The first is people who are looking at learning how to map better. I can't type and speak at the same time, clearly. Learning how to map better in RMXP. So I'm going to try and give some tips for that. Second is people who, I think we're at 59. We'll go with 100. People who, how about I finish typing the name? People who get distracted constantly, like myself. No, people who are interested in seeing the background stuff behind some of the game. And third, desperate and or bored people. So hello everybody. Basically what this is, I'm just going to be mapping one of the areas for the game for episode 10 right on camera, and I can talk about what I'm doing and such. So like, as you see right there, I have made a new map. It is completely blank. I have just added grass. It is pretty grass. I take this stuff from the tile set on the left here. I just tried to actually point to it with my real hand, which you guys can't see, so that's good. But yeah, it's kind of like a drag and drop thing, except for it's a little bit more complicated than that. So I'm going to add, this is the map I just did. This is like the other half of the same forest that I'm going to be doing right now. I'm going to add 3 tiles to the width just for now because I want this to all connect perfectly. So what I'm going to do is just copy 3 tiles from this side, copy, paste. Yes. Let me make sure I have the right height on this. 59? Okay, I do. Because I want them to match up so that it's not completely awkward, which some places in the city, it is completely awkward. We don't want that. Now, I'm going to take a little color here. It's just a random tile. It's an auto tile, so it kind of conforms to the environment around it. Undo, 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 undo. Oh, I can't undo. That's awkward. It conforms to the environment around it, which makes certain things really easy to map. If you are working with RMXP, you should probably already know that. Okay, so I'm just going to use that for drawing purposes for now, because I already have what I'm doing with this area sketched out. So what I'm going to start with is I need to count the borders. And what that is, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 squares. 1 extra. From each side, or from the sides. Okay. Basically, in Pokemon games, Pokemon Essentials games, if you get too close to the edge of a map, you see blackness. And this has happened a couple times in my releases. I wasn't totally worried about it at first, but I do try and cut down on it now. Or it's like the edge of the map. Okay, so basically what I've done here is I've just made these little dots to mark how far I can go. That's how far I can let the player go before they will reach over, before they will see over the edge of the map where it doesn't exist. And I'm circling around it with my mouse right now because I know it might be kind of hard to see on YouTube, kind of. So there's dots. We have dots. Now, because this left section is extending to this other map, I don't have to worry about that. I can draw that little path out. Everything else, I cannot go past these dots. So that's just little markers for my guidance. Now, I already have what I want this area to look like sketched out. So I'm just gonna add a couple tiles there and do my quick little outline first. I really, if you're getting into mapping, I really strongly suggest you do something to plan out your area before you try actually mapping it, rather than just kind of like jumping in and going, oh, I'm going to map the place. Because that tends to make some rather lackluster designs, actually, especially if you're first starting out and don't really have an intuition for mapping. See, I almost went over my dot there, but I didn't, so it's okay. Okay. So, like I said, I already have this layout sketched out. So I'm just drawing on here for my reference. And I'm not going to talk about where in the game this is exactly, because that would be too easy. I don't want it to be that long. The auto tile is really handy just for making little things like this, and later I'll just fill it in when I'm done using it. We're going to bring that over all the way over here. All the way up there. Well, no, all the way. That was a lie, actually. That, we're gonna go like... don't want to go past my dots, so we're gonna be like, boom. Boom. Punch. Bring it down there. This will probably make more sense in the actual game. But this is just what I'm doing right now, so... Okay, and we're going to have a little part that goes up here, and la. And, last but not least, actually, kind of is least, just a little U-turn offshoot there. Okay, so that's my outline. Now, what I am going to do is, this is the forest, as you may have guessed, where it lists the map down here, and I titled North Aventurine Woods, and I almost typed North Aventurine Woods, which is a mistake I've probably made a good 7 or 8 times working on this place. So this is forest. So, like many forests, there's trees, and you see I'm going to take my little tree graphic on the left here, and I'm just going to work row by row across here, like this. This is sadly most of what making the forest is about, is drawing these trees on here. Now, one thing I will notice, if you're spraying in a Pokemon game, or pretty much anything, I'm trying to think of an example where trees don't do this. I guess there are some RPG tiles that just show leaves as a canopy overlay, so I guess that's an exception, but like, in a case like this where you have each individual tree, it's really tedious, and I'm going to cut out as soon as I'm done talking. As you can see, I'm just kind of going across row by row and putting trees in. What I was saying though is when you have individual trees like this and you're just kind of laying out borders of them, one thing you want to be sure to do is stagger them. So like, I'm going to zoom in here so you can see what I'm talking about. Because I'm working at the highest, like the most zoomed out. That I didn't actually need that many most, but I was correcting my least. The least zoomed in, the most zoomed out. You know, whatever. Okay. Anyway, what I'm talking about is, you see how I'm staggering this here, so like, it goes in and out, and in and out, a little bit, as opposed to just doing like this one solid row, which admittedly would be really easy, but looks really bad. So, we've got to go for quality here over what's easy. I don't actually want to put one there. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to pause the video until I'm done laying these tree bases out. Because I'm basically just using these as the generic walls, quote-unquote, of the forest to form a boundary. That's something you will see pretty commonly in any RPG with forest, so basically any RPG ever. So yeah, as I just said, I'm going to pause the video until I'm done with this, or think of something interesting to say. I'm sure that'll probably happen first. Because when I was doing this entire map over here, I was just like thinking to myself, I could comment on this, and this, and this, and how I hate to make these mountains, and this. Okay, yeah, so. Okay, hi again. That took all of like 3 seconds. I want to show you a better example, because I realized that I explained it poorly, of what I mean about the staggering thing. Like, you can see I'm going down rows here, but I was originally going to put a tree like this, just to block it off, but as you can see, it syncs up there. It looks like the trees were planted in a row, and although I do have to do that sometimes just because of the way it works out, try and avoid that as much as possible. So undo, and I can just move it one tile over, and that, you know, it looks so much better, and it's a little thing, but if you're mapping, if you're working on mapping, this is a habit that you really need to get into, is just, you know, being willing to redo the little thing. I don't know why I always go into that East European accent for little. It's just... Actually, I do know why. I had this friend in high school who always did that, and I seem to have adopted that habit from her in like the past week, despite not talking to her since high school. So that's good. Yeah, but just that note about the staggering thing, like, because I realize I'm kind of explaining that poorly. Basically, you don't ever, in a natural environment like this, want it to look like the trees were arranged in a deliberate formation. Don't you know? So that is what you take steps against. Yes. Okay. Skip again. I'm really bad. Look, here I am talking about how to not stagger and such, and I did it twice up here. Let me just get rid of that. We're going to pretend that never happened. Okay, so this is only taking a few minutes actually. But I'm coming down to the last few places on this map. Aside from other things I really need to specifically talk about, one of the things I need to specifically talk about are these little narrow sections here. This is going to be less the case for other styles of mapping, but with the staggering thing, it would be so easy just for me to draw this little line of trees down here and call it a day. No. With a place like this, you're going to have to leave some extra room for yourself and just go row by row by row, just, you know, kind of a little jagged tree line, because even though it's still rather arranged, and in fact is arranged, it looks so much better than just... I mean, I realize we're only dealing with the bottom half of the tree for now, but use your imagination to fill in the top. Yeah? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have to do the same thing in this little section. I only get about 2 trees worth of space. Trees are apparently a measurement of distance now. They're 3 tiles. 2 trees. Okay. Pause again. Okay, so I'm coming down to the bottom edge here, and if we look on my other map, you see I want to have this little scroll. Thank you. I want to see I have this little dark cove where you can see that you're exiting the forest. So in order to do that, I actually had to make a separate graphic entirely for that. This whole conglomerate. It's actually kind of stupid. I say actually a lot. But just place that down like that. And I have 3 exits to this forest. So we're going to have to put them in all 3. I want to count out how many tiles in between these 2 because they're so close. Actually, you know what? I need to count out how many tiles are in between the other one too, and the easiest way to do that, actually, is just to draw trees across. So I was one too many. That's fine. So I'm gonna put an extra tree there and reposition that. I'm going to count out because that's just small distance. I don't want to click back just for that. Okay, that's gonna go like that. And now you can see that I can get exactly as many space for trees as I need there. That way, like, because if I didn't do that, I would have like this little gap in the trees here, and a player could potentially walk down in between that area, and they would see the end of the screen. And that would be bad. Oh, I have 4 exits. Okay. Forgot to scroll. Ame is pro. Yeah, I'm sure you're all deeply surprised I make mistakes. That should be sarcasm too, by the way. Yeah, okay. So that... And I don't care that that's not centered, because that path is artificial. It doesn't need to look centered. This light color that I'm using for the structuring thing is going to go away pretty soon. Okay, so I've built those in, and going to fill in my little holes here, and I will be right back again. Okay, so in a case like this, where I'm drawing these trees over from the left over to the right, and I want to bring them into this grove where the exit is, I can't do that without overlapping with this tree here. So what I'm going to do is, rather than doing that, I'm going to draw a couple trees this way, then just skip 2 spaces, because I know that I have those 2 spaces of extra tree. That's such a weird way to describe something. Like, unless it's Minecraft. I had 2 spaces of extra... I don't know. Skipping 2 spaces so that I can start with a new tree, and as you can see, I can completes the tree right in time to run into the grove. Now, this has given me no end to bother. I'm going to have to do the same thing in between these two groves. Skip 2 spaces. And that doesn't look fantastic, but it looks better than having half a tree, or the alternative, just leaving these 2 spaces there blank. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to have to do it again here, because I actually probably could have made these grove graphics better. But whatever, skis. Okay, that's that, and I have 2 more rows to go. This is good where it gets a little bit tricky. See, I did it again. I did that one weird accent on the little word. I really need to stop that. Okay. But I'm going to drag this over, and so you can see as I'm going across, it might be hard to tell on a low resolution like YouTube, but it's actually deleting the bottom of the grove graphic. So I'm just going to stop right there. I'm going to grab the bottom part of the tree graphic. I'm pointing at it with my finger again. Just look where my cursor is. Bottom graphic here. I'm going to pick up where I left off. Zooming out so I can go all the way across. I can do that safely because the grove graphic actually doesn't cover as many even though it's like 3 rows of trees, the graphic itself only takes up like 2.5 rows, so I can do that bottom half, if that makes any sense. If not, you just don't worry about it. You don't worry your little head about it. I almost did it. I said the word little. I did the accent before, so kill me. Okay. Now, I'm gonna fill in tops of these trees where it doesn't intersect with the grove. Now, if you are working with RMXP, you probably know this already. If you don't, you don't. There is a 3rd layer. I was working on layer 2, because you've got the ground, you've got things above the ground. 3rd layer is things above the ground. Or at least from this perspective. So I'm going to use the 3rd layer to finish this row of trees. I'm going to cheat over the grove just a little bit for now. And that looks okay. See? No harm done. I've got 1 more row of trees, so let me just finish that up real quickly. Whee! Okay, so I have my outline done. So the next step, that is at the bottom of the trees, next step is to add the tops of the trees, because the tops of the trees are actually passable. You can walk behind them. Apparently it's not that way in the main series game. Oops. Whatever. I feel like this adds more interesting puzzle mechanics where I have some places, as players may or may not know. I'm gonna add a little tree up in this corner here, just because I feel like that looks like a bad corner here too. There too. Oh, I messed up. Back of the tops of the trees are passable in Reborn. I'm just rounding it out right now. They aren't in the main series. I feel like they should be, but whatever. Oh, I staggered poorly in this row here. Whee! Okay, problem solved. I tried to say fixed and solved at the same time, it turned into 6th. I have made a problem 6. Okay. Alright, so I've got my corners rounded out. This area I want to be a little bit more boxy up here. See, I keep using my actual physical hand. I'll get used to this, I swear. I want to be slightly more boxy because that's actually going to be a human settlement, as you'll see. By that I mean a house. That's the fancy word for a house, a human settlement. Okay. So next step, now that I've got my little places, you don't want it to look actually cornery like I did in my original design. So I'm just filling in the corners here. Because again, when you're making natural areas like this, you want it to look natural. Or at least as much as a video game can possibly do. Okay, so next step, as I've tried to say before I got distracted now 3 times, I think. Tops of the trees. Yes. So, tops of the trees is not all that complicated. We're going to go on our 3rd layer, because that's what allows me to stack these trees on top of them. The bottom of the trees are things on the ground. The tops of the trees are things on top of things on the ground. So, once again, we're just going to start on the left here and go all the way over. And that should be pretty simple. Creates a good visual effect. I'm going to do that top row. I have to change the height for that. So once again, I'm going to pause until I'm done or think of something more interesting to say. And by done, I mean when I get to this little area down here, because I know that's going to be some hell. That's going to be some shit right there. Okay, so beep boop. Presto changel, and you'd better bet your knickers we have treetops bloody everywhere. Okay. Except down at the bottom here. Sorry, I was stretching. Alright, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see what's going on here. I've done pretty much everything here except for the bottom 2 rows of trees. And the reason is these groves again. And the tricky thing about that is because I'm putting these treetops on the 3rd layer. And if you'll remember, I had to cheat because the grove is on the 2nd layer. I had to put the tree bottoms on the 3rd layer here. I'm pointing with my real hands again. I need to stop that. Okay, yes, they are there. So, if I were to... Okay, I can put the treetops over that way. Over the groves. That works. Because that is not where the 3rd layer of the tree bottoms was. But, zoom back in. That's not the zoom in. Herp derp. Okay, zoom back in. Zoom in further. Alright. Now, if I try and continue this row, I'm going to bring it over this way. If I try and continue it past this grove area, what's going to happen is, oh no, I'm deleting the tree bottoms. Whatever shall I do? Okay, here's what we do. Couple options, actually, depending on how this works out. Firstly, I'm going to bring the bottom half of that tree top all the way across, because I can do that safely without deleting anything. Whee! Okay. So now really, all that I have to worry about is this one tile here. There's these top right and left corners of the tree graphic are actually completely blank, these tiles. They still exist. This can cause some passability errors if you're putting them over them easily like I am. In order to fix that, all you have to do is go into your database for your tile set, click over the priority where your tree is, and set these blank tiles to star 5. That's the highest you can possibly get. And that means that if you put like a tree blank tile over something that you shouldn't be able to walk on, whereas normally putting that blank tile over that something would make you be able to walk on it if you have the open possibility like this. If you set the priority, it makes the open passability above the tile that you can't walk on, so it doesn't apply that open passability property to the impassable tile below. That probably makes no sense to people who do not use RMXP, and you know, whatever. Maybe you'll understand when you're older. I'm kidding. Don't worry about it. Basically, for people who are just watching this to see some of the behind the scenes stuff, that was what was causing some random passability errors in, I think it was Jasper, probably, where I had not set that star 5 property with these trees. So yeah. So I did that. But those tiles are blank, so I just have to worry about that one top tile. So I'm going to zoom back in here, find the grove. Right. Okay, so apparently this screen recorder thing that I'm using, if your file gets too large, it cuts off the recording. This is not something I knew, because this did not happen when I did test recordings, because those were obviously very short, small files to make sure I could actually be heard. Which I hope you can hear me, otherwise I'm going to kill myself. Yes. No, so okay. Picking up where I just got cut off, all I have to worry about is this top tile. And that's just in that place there. If I put it there, it deletes the top of the bottom of the tree and the layer below. So I'm going to go to the layer below. I'm going to restore that. That's going to delete part of the grove graphic thing. So I'm going to go to the bottom layer and pull that grove graphic thing, just slap it in there. Now, the reason I don't do that in the first place is because if I put that down normally, you can see that little white area there. there's nothing below it, because that's the lowest layer, that's the ground. It's like basically this hole in existence, and somebody could find that hole and fall into the void. No, just kidding, this isn't Minecraft, but it would look bad. However, I can get away with doing that here, because that treetop conveniently obscures that hole of existence from view. So, no big deal. Another option, if I so desired, is I can just go onto the event layer and choose the graphic for an event that I make right there. And just choose the graphic that's the treetop. Click always on top. Done. Doesn't look that good in editor, but in game, nobody will know the difference. I do try to avoid doing that as much as possible though, just because it's best to keep mapping things in the map layer and event things in the event layer and not cross the streams. Also, because if you have too many events, it lags, as I'm sure many people who have played older versions know. Cough, Chrysalia Forest, cough, cough. That's not a big map, it just has like 300 events because of all the trees disappearing. So, yeah. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to draw the rest of these treetops on where I can. I think I can do that here. Yes. Okay, so I'll be right back as soon as I finish up this bottom row, or next bottom row. I haven't finished, but I arrived at the next row. I mean, I'm just going to re-demonstrate my point here. If I try and put the treetop here, it erases the tree bottom below that, but then I can just go and restore it on the second layer. So, yeah. I'm going to do the same thing here again. Oh, that's the wrong layer. Whoops. Okay. Restore second layer. And that deletes that part of the grove graphic. I don't know if grove is the right word to use. I don't know what else to call it. Clearing. Except for... Well, here's the backwards logic. I make a place where the trees condense, so that I can make a clear-cut fade so that you can tell you can walk through there. But why do you walk through the place where the trees are more heavily condensed? Shouldn't it get lighter rather than darker? I guess that's if you're going into the woods. But even so, I just... Pokemon logic, man. Okay, so I finished up those. That's the only catastrophic layer mess that is going to be necessitated in a forest like this. Other places it gets a little more complicated, but for now I just draw that last little tops of trees across the bottom row so it doesn't look like that row just stops there, and we're done with the general layout. So, now we get to the slightly more interesting part. Going to go back to our grass tiles here, going to fill in our network of paths. Looks better. The trees actually properly blend into the ground now, which is important to say the least. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a look at my map and see what is the next thing I have to add. That's going to be the general obstacles around the forest, so you can't just walk through this place casually. For instance, these logs. I sprayed these logs myself. You won't find them in any other Pokemon game. I'm not 100% satisfied with them. They still pop out a little bit too much to me, but I used the same colors as from this tree here. And then some more. So, IDK. It should be fine. It is weird, however, that, these logs are bigger than the trees here. I'm on the wrong layer. I'm also using the fill bucket. That could have been catastrophic. Okay. So I'm just going to drop a log there casually. Yeah, they're actually bigger than the trees here, but they need to be so that they actually look like an obstacle. Worthy of not just jumping over. That would be nice if you had like Rock's Feather or something. Okay. What else? Where else are my logs? Where are my log crew at? Oh, that's... Oh no, there's one more log. Okay. Alright. I'm going to... Actually, I forgot to put in a tree here. It's a special tree. It's an obstacle tree. Looks like a normal tree. But it isn't. Wow. It's just kind of slightly sticking outside the path more. This tree, as a result, needs to not exist. I'm sorry, tree. You have been voted off the island. I know you trusted us, but then we committed such a hideous act as treason. I went there. I made that joke. What you gonna do about it? Alright. This log is going to go here. I'm gonna use that nub, actually. I haven't used that one very much. Because again, in naturalistic environments, you want to not repeat tiles as much as practically possible. I also have this little gap here, so I'm gonna scoot that one tree over just to mind the gap. It's gonna leave a little bump in that area there, but that is not a problem because it doesn't go off the map or anything. Okay, so that's it for my log crew. I don't know why it's a crew. They my crew, yo. Okay, next thing is spider webs. Doesn't everybody love spider webs? I know I don't. Hey look, I missed a spot. Save. I save compulsively. I suggest you should too. Spider webs. My spider web graphic needs trees to be exactly 2 spaces apart. So I need to add a tree here somewhere. Where do I want it? I'm looking at my map, but I'm not doing anything here. I'm looking at my little hand-drawn map. Perfect. I think. Am I looking at the right place? Yes, I am. Good. Okay. No problem. So yeah, spiderweb is going to go right there. Now I have these little side places that tuck in behind there, but these spider webs will eventually be on the event layer. I'm just putting them down now for my reference for the future. That's not something I'm going to be doing in these videos. I wanted to say this video. I expect it to be like 45 minutes long, but my program is making me cut it up because apparently file size is a thing, blah blah blah. So yeah, spider web goes there. I guess that's the only spider web in this place too. Oh! I missed a log. I missed a vertical log. This log goes there-ish, maybe? We'll put them right there. Okay. So now this is actually looking somewhat maze-like, isn't it? It's funny because you actually have no idea. This is somewhat a bitchy dungeon design on my part. But the real bitchy area is the South Woods, which I've already mapped. This is like easy mode compared to the South Aventurine Woods. Ledges. Ledges are good. Oh. I drew the wrong arrow on my little diagram. Oopsie doopsie. That's fine, I know what I meant. This ledge is gonna go back here. Like, again, I've mapped this all out beforehand. Especially if you're doing something with, like, puzzles and such in your dungeons, which you should, because puzzles make the world go round. You really want to plan that out beforehand, is the point I'm making here. I think that's it for the ledges. It's, like, relatively empty. Maybe just because I'm used to mapping the South Woods, which is, like, full of stuff everywhere, all the stuff. Sneak peek. Okay, sneak peek's over. Whoops. Yeah. So that's ledges. Last kind of obstacle I have is this tall grass from 3rd gen. Implying everything here isn't from 3rd gen, but whatever. Anyway, I'm being particularly cruel about my placement of this grass. I expect you will see why later. Alright. I might skip this too. what I'm doing as I'm placing it here is I'm just, with the grass in general, wild grass, I'm just going for what looks best aesthetically. If you're working on mapping with RPG Maker, again, you want to keep in mind that it's a naturalistic environment. You don't want to do like boxes of grass because that looks human arranged. Other than that, you will get a sense of what looks naturalistic. There's one thing kind of in the RPG Maker community about the rule of 3. You don't want to do like groups of 3 tiles just because that's usually the way tile sets are made, so it's easy to do it like that. But it looks bad. Like, it would be better if you wanted to make kind of this general shape with your grass. I'm doing this strictly for demonstration. It would be better to round it out like this. Just because that looks more natural. Like, that's the sort of things, if you're just working on mapping, that you want to look for. Okay. Undo all of that. Alright, I'm going to pause again until I'm done with the grass, because apparently file size limitations are a thing with this recorder, so yes. Hi again, I haven't even done anything yet. I forgot to mention the grass, this tall grass, the super tall grass, because there's tall grass and then there's super tall grass, comes in 2 tiles. Right now I'm just placing the lower tile. Kind of like with the trees, I will worry about the upper layer tile later. Okay, so I've got the base of the tall grass everywhere I want it, and I will fill that in later. The next thing I'm going to put down is the honey trees. Oh, spoiler. Whoops, oh well. Honey trees, I just kind of conglomerated the other tree graphics to make a special kind of tree, but it works just fine, so that's fine. I want a honey tree there. That didn't work at all. Oh, I didn't click the 3rd layer. Whoops. I keep doing that lately. I never used to have that problem, but lately I keep like thinking I clicked on a layer and I didn't. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. I want a honey tree, I guess, there. In that case, I'm going to take out some of that tall grass, just to make it more accessible. Again, I'm trimming this down now for aesthetics. Make it give it that like edge. Okay, that's good. Finish putting that tree. Where else? Over here. Okay, see here, I have to have the honey tree both in view of the log and the spider webs, so I have to count. The view is about 8, so I've got 6, 8, can go there, or 6, 8. Well, shoot. I have to have the tree right there. So those 2 trees will both have to go away, and that's gonna look a little bit awkward, but well, I don't want to have 2. Whoops. I do not want to have 2 separate honey trees so close to each other, but I will find things to fill in that gap later. In fact, I can do a little log right there. So, no big a deal. Alright, yeah, I'll find more for that in a little bit. So, honey trees are done. Tall grass is mostly done. Alright, last thing for the bottom layer. Normal wild grass. I'm gonna put this normal. Okay, so my screen recording program cut out a full 8 minutes earlier than it did last time because the file is too large. So I don't know what happened that the file was so much larger this time that it couldn't keep it up for as long. That happened. As I was about to say, the next thing is normal wild grass. I'm clearly going to have to find a new file recorder, or a screen recorder, whatever. But that's a task for another day, considering I just got this one. My first priority when I'm placing this wild grass is, as you can see me doing up here, is to harshen, no, not harshen, soften the opposite of harsh, soften the transition between the super tall grass and the normal short non-Pokemon grass. As I mentioned before, mainly when I'm placing wild grass, it's for aesthetics. I'm not trying to be like a jerk and make people walk over it more than a little bit. Like here I'm doing that, I'm being a jerk. Because I know that on the whole, I don't have to force people to walk over it. If people want to encounter wild Pokemon, they will spend time doing so. I just don't want to put a whole lot of stuff in this section down here. This little Yui. Because spoilers, that's actually where you're going to meet a new character. So yeah, like I said, I'm just going to try and place grass to improve the atmosphere and make the environment smoother. Like this. See how that just kind of complements the really tall grass. And again, you don't want to, I use the box tool here because that's easier for me. Even if you're using the box tool like I do, you don't want to place boxes of it like this. Like the main series Pokemon games do, and that irks me to no end. Game Freak, learn to aesthetic. They do it sometimes, they do it well sometimes. Most of the time just like, herp, derp, box of wild Pokemon, have fun. No, that looks bad, don't do that, that looks human arranged. Anyway, I'm going to use it for the borders here, just because, like, you know, my logic in placing it as I am is because, A, it's going to be more out of the way for the trainers to walk through. Players, that is. Trainers, whatever. It's going to be more out of the way, so it's not as tedious. This is not a favor I do in places like Aventurine. Also just because I think it's going to grow more wildly around the edges where people are less likely to walk. I'm avoiding this area because, again, that's where the human settlement is. Put it up here, put it up here, Unless you have a specific reason for it, you generally don't want to put just like 1 or 2 tiles. 3 seems to look okay. 2 is awkward though. Like that looks weird. Ruby and Sapphire does it sometimes, it's weird. I do that in the Wasteland though, for the exact reason that it's weird. I just have little dots of 1 and 2 tiles of grass everywhere. Because Wasteland is some fucked up shit, yo. Faux show homes. By the way, you're not allowed to quote me anything I say on my YouTube channel. At least, not to use it against me. Hashtag oath. There's like 2 people who are going to get that hashtag joke. But if they watch this, it will be worth. Because I said so. I did this earlier while I was waiting for the thingy to finish processing because it stopped mid-sentence. Again! I'll see if I can cut that out. I actually don't have any real video editing programs, so that's good. Things I need to learn. Okay, so I'm pretty much done placing my grass. Next thing I'm going to throw down is... let's put in our quote-unquote human settlement. It's going to go up here. I'm going to try and do what I can to make it homely. Ha! Because it's a home. See? See what I did there? Once again, we're going to start with the bottom so I can put the other part on the upper layer. So that's going to go like that. How about I put it on the right layer, huh? Now this house graphic here is just ripped straight from the Pokemon games. And I don't like that. I don't play that way, yo dog. So I ain't gonna keep playing that way, yo dog. Just adding some trees to make it kind of blend in a little bit better. Make it look like it wasn't just randomly placed there right now. We're gonna add here a tree, there a tree, everywhere a tree, tree. I don't like it there. But I feel like the atmosphere I'm trying to go for here is just like you're coming through the woods and you just ow. Ow! I just scooted forward and cut myself on a grate. Okay, I'm okay. Not bleeding or anything. Ow. The atmosphere I'm going for here is you're walking through the woods and you find this little homely cabin. So yeah. But I'm going to edit that cabin-ness thing. So let me save for now, and we're gonna pull up tile sets. So I keep my project here. Graphics, tile sets. This is in the Aventurine file. Alright. So another thing I really stress for people learning to map and such with RPG Maker is do not ever, as much as possible, because sometimes it's impractical, ever let the graphics you have available decide the design that you end up with. If it's a temporary thing, then whatever. But what I'm saying is, if I have a cabin in the woods, and that cabin in the woods ends up in the final release with a blue roof, it's gonna be because I thought, and I decided, that that roof should be blue. Not just because the graphic I happened to pull for a base for it had a blue roof. So let's fix that. This is graphic scale, if you haven't been introduced to it. I'm like in love with it for spriting programs. I could do separate tutorials on how to use this. For now, I'm just gonna kind of rush through this. In fact, I was gonna do this on screen. I was gonna do the editing of the house on screen, but since the program is being finicky about times and such, I'm just gonna skip while I work on this. So, okay, so they'll probably just like randomly changed colors on your screen, but what I did was I went with a yellow colored roof for two reasons. First being that the person's whose house this is, his favorite color is yellow. Second, because it's also where you get honey, so I felt like the yellow earthy tones would be very good for a honey house. I decided to stick with the cream color for the base of the house, but make the rest of it more wood-like, including moving that awful spiked doorway and adding some windows to make it more inviting. So that's that. Now, in our editor, we saw this old house. In order to update it, all I have to do is click this import open and close it. Boom! Alright, so that's that done. Next up, I'm gonna finish off the tall grass, which is very similar to the treetops, just a matter of taking this, but it does get a little bit more complicated, because I have to use the third layer to go above the front of trees, like this, but then I have to use the second layer to go behind the treetops. And that's just a matter of, knowing where each of your things is, and taking steps to not intersect. And there's, I think, 2 more sections of that. I can probably do this really quickly. So that needs to be on the third layer to be in front of trees. So in order to be most efficient, I'm going to get all the things that require the third layer out of the way first. Hop over to the second layer, all the way up. Doop, 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 doop. And last section, gonna do third layer first. Second layer. Okay. It's a lot of grass. In retrospect, maybe I should make it a little nicer for people who have to walk through that. And on the other hand, nah. Well, I mean, I'm really torn because on one hand, having more encounters and such adds gameplay and time and stuff and actually makes it a game. On the other hand, it can be tedious. I think that since this is a side quest location, I'm just gonna leave it. So this is what we're dealing with so far. It doesn't look half bad. However, looks a little bland. So now we have the decorations. decorations, you know, it's important to have them for the atmosphere of a map. Even though they don't really add anything, I'm going to start with this lower flower tile and just kind of go by piece. I'm going to double check to see exactly how much I've abused it in the neighboring map. Quite a bit. So, I'm just going to drop it here and there and everywhere. Flower, flower, flower. Have a flower. Merry Christmas. Have a flower. You get a flower. You get a flower. Everybody gets a flower. Even you, the person listening to this right now. A flower for you. I love you. No, really, I do. I couldn't find the words to say it until now. You do love me too, don't you? Why aren't you saying anything back? Why can't I hear your voice? Senpai, notice me! Okay, I'm over it. La-di-da. So yeah, I'm just putting flowers all the places, not much to say here. If you're doing your own mapping again, this is something you will in time get a sense of, like, you know, what's good distance, what patterns. Basically, the main question is, how do you make it look more natural? Where are these flowers going to A, grow naturally, and B, look good? I kind of do this haphazardly, but that's almost the best way to do it. Okay, what next? I'm gonna put in some bushes. I like to put these on the second layer because I can stash them behind trees. Mainly, I use them to round out corners and such, like there. New's gonna have a lot of bushes around his house. Oops, spoilers, whatever. That wasn't even oops, I was totally aware of what I was saying. I don't usually use as many bushes in this forest area, but whatever. Just, I'm gonna round that one out and take that grass out. That's what I'm about to say. I can find stuff to fill that gap, because instead of having like 2 spaces back where the player can randomly go into for no reason, now it's just kind of like a little 1 space indent, and it looks much better. You want to look for places like that you can just kind of round out. Whoops, wrong there. Okay, and I think that's about it for the bushes, except over here. Nah, I don't like that one. That one, though, is good. Okay, and then I'm gonna put the headbutt trees. Can put one there. Again, I'm just trying to round out the environment with these. Because they don't cost anything, and they contribute a surprising amount, especially up here. Like, I see some holes in the woods that I just kind of want to fill in. I'm not gonna go crazy with these though. Like with the flowers, just because that's the decision I made for this area, is that there are more flowers than headbutt trees. You know, when you're making your own areas, you're gonna decide, okay, the flowers are growing pretty wildly here. I'm gonna put in a fuck ton of flowers, and that's okay. It's your decision, as long as you stick with it. You want to stick with whatever characteristics you establish for an area. So, like, I'm trying very hard to paint into characteristics as much as possible between the south and north forests. Last thing, one of those things was this flower right here. I have all these flowers to choose from, but I chose this one right here. Would grow inside the forests, kind of. Florists? Good pun, but no. Inside the forests, somewhat sparsely. Compared to outside the forest, there are like flowers fucking everywhere. You can't go 3 steps without running into a flower. That's not true. You can totally do that. But there's a lot more flowers and a lot more kinds. In the forest, just this kind, so I'm putting these down. That's going to be my final choice. Oh, I didn't add any floor flowers over here. I need to do that. He has a very pretty home, I think. I think he'll like it. I'm going to cram his house full of Pikachus, then he'll definitely like it. I'm not even joking. Okay. And I'm gonna get this one. So, my sassy motherfucking ghetto ass recording program decided that when I need like 2 more minutes left to be completely done, say that the file size is too large again. So, bitch, don't you be fucking with me. I installed you. I can uninstall you. Anyway, as I was saying, I'm just gonna give this like one more quick glanced over, which is what I did while I was waiting for the other file to compress. Thanks, video program, thank you. And I like it. I feel like this has a good balance between openness and stuffness, which is pretty much what I'm going for. And I'm not going to event it right now. The eventing is like the other half of mapping, where you make things happen rather than just make it look pretty. That's not something I was planning to cover though. For now, maybe? So, we're done here, except we're not done here. Because there's one more thing I have to do, and that is, if you remember in the beginning, I copied over these 3 tiles from the other map that it's going to be connecting to on the left here. So, I gotta get rid of those, otherwise that section of the map is going to be deleted. So I just use those for my reference to make sure that it all blends together well. So I'm going to drag that over. If this map lags, I'm going to cry, but it probably won't because the Wasteland doesn't, usually. Alright. Boom. That's a wrap. Okay. So I just spent like the past 4 minutes going over various ways to end this video because I kept saying weird things. Like, I know I say weird things usually, but they were dumb. I'm pretty sure I've said thank you for watching like 4 times now. But that, and I will see you all in a distant future.